Op shops and garage sales are also great places to score quality second-hand clothing, furniture, crockery and other bargains, as well as a few genuine surprises, but sometimes for a whole lot less than the original sale price. The catch is that you need to make it a habit of visiting the op shops in your area on a more regular basis. You also need to get to garage sales early so that you don't miss out on the best stuff. You'd be surprised by how many people are lined up out the front before the gates are opened. But once again, when it comes to buying second-hand electricals, you should always make sure that they come with a certificate of compliance to Australian safety standards. It might also pay for you to quickly Google the cost of a new electrical item of the same type, while also taking into account that a new item should come with a 12-month warranty. But remember, if you do choose to purchase a new electrical item, just make sure that you keep your receipt. And we've talked about that in an earlier video as well, how important it is to keep your receipt, because if the item is faulty, it's your way of proving that you purchased it, and it's often part of your warranty. Second-hand shops, or traditionally second-hand shops, tend to carry a slightly more upmarket range of furniture and electricals than op shops, though you'll still be able to find the occasional bargain. Sometimes though you might have to pay a bit more for a near new product. Just remember that a lot of sellers are often quite negotiable on price. That's why it usually pays to come in with a lower offer, because let's face it, there are really only two possible ways the shopkeeper can respond. Just remember to shop around before you make an offer, just in case there's a similar product elsewhere that's going for less. If you need a decent buying strategy, in a video that's not far off into the future, perhaps you can take a look at the segment I'm going to do on comparing cars before you sign any loan agreements section, and it's going to be in chapter 6 of my book. Lots of second-hand shops also have plenty of quality second-hand electricals like TVs, fridges and microwaves up for grabs, and they should also come with a certificate of electrical compliance. Bargain and warehouse style shops, on occasion, can also have some pretty good deals on offer, like lounge suites, kitchen tables and chairs, desks and household electricals. That of course should also come with a warranty. Many of these types of stores also carry beds and linen, along with plenty of other household goods. Believe it or not, it's still possible to furnish an entire apartment for the basics for not much more than $1,000, so long as you're prepared for some of the items to have a few faults, or perhaps not last as long as some of the more expensive options. But before you buy anything, you should always shop around, and this is where your mobile phone will come into play. Mostly because it's going to allow you to compare the prices from genuine brick and mortar shops with other online possibilities from places like Facebook Marketplace and Gumtree. I also have a bit of a rule that you just don't buy on first sight, that you go away, you think about it, you do some comparisons, and then you come back to it. What retailers and shop owners and people who are selling products want is for you to buy immediately, and that's where a lot of people get caught out. But if you adopt that strategy, of course you have to adopt the strategy, accept that the product may sell before you make up your mind, and that's just the way things are. But given that most shops in most shopping complexes are pretty much the same, there's a fair chance you'll get another one from the next shopping centre just down the road. One good strategy that I've always used is to first make a list of comparable items and then note the positives and negatives of each, particularly when you're talking about something of great expense like a new LED TV or a fridge or whatever. I think you should get prices for at least 3 similar items, and then you've got something to go on. Sometimes though, buying all your goods from just one place may also enable you to negotiate a better overall deal. Let's talk about budget food. A lot of budget foods are just as good as many of the big name brands. In fact, some are just repackaged versions of the originals. So even though you might find an occasional dud, fancy packaging doesn't always guarantee good food. Planning your menu before you shop is also another good way of reducing waste and saving money. By shopping later in the evening, close to closing times, you may be lucky enough to find a few last-minute specials, but especially on some of the perishables like breads and cooked meats, including whole chickens. As a rule, though, it's usually the delicacies like chocolate biscuits, soft drinks, and pre-cooked meals that are really going to blow out your budget. So where you can, try to buy in bulk, but especially with products like rice, pasta, washing detergents, toilet rolls, and the like. You should also keep an eye out for items on special, even if that means having to scan through your junk mail, which some people really enjoy doing. From time to time, I actually find myself doing it as well. But by planning ahead and by focusing more on wholesome but budget-conscious meals, you should be pleasantly surprised by the savings. You should also seriously consider making it a habit to cook around a third more than you actually need for a meal, so that the extra portions can then be refrigerated and perhaps used for lunch the next day, or frozen for future meals, but particularly for on those nights when you don't have a plan. And for those of you who are still learning how to cook, like I sort of am, if I were you, and once upon a time I definitely was you, your primary focus should be on some of the simpler options, so long as they're also nutritious, leaving takeaways for special occasions only. That's because nothing, and I mean nothing, is going to blow out your budget, along with your waistline, like junky, sugar-laden fast foods will. When it comes to power and water bills, by following some reasonably simple guidelines, you should be able to reduce your power bills by quite a bit. For example, lighting. Install power-saving light globes in every room, or ask your landlord to. Don't leave the lights on in empty rooms. Now I'm sounding like your father, I know. High wattage outside lights usually require lots of power, so use them sparingly. With heating and cooling, you can substantially insulate your home against both the cold and the heat by closing your windows, your curtains and blinds at particular times of the day, and by only heating one main room over winter or cooling only one main room over summer rather than the whole house, your power usage will be considerably less. You should also try to insulate around the gaps around older style windows and doors using either legitimate products that you can purchase from hardware style stores, or by using something as simple as a tightly rolled up plastic bag stuffed into the gaps. You can also roll up old towels to cover the gaps under your doors. Any air conditioner is pretty much guaranteed to drive up your power bill, whereas by using a pedestal fan on muggy summer evenings, maybe with a wet cloth to wipe your face down every now and then, or even by sitting outside for a time, you can also substantially reduce the amount of power you use over these periods. If your home has solar panels, then electric heating is probably preferable to heating with gas, while wearing more clothing to keep warm can also make an enormous difference. When it comes to the other electrical goods in your home, the fridge is one of the biggest users of electricity in any home. To save power, you should set the thermostat on the lowest possible level where the fridge contents stay cool. You should also ensure that the door shuts properly and that the seals are airtight. Another helpful hint is to only open your fridge or freezer door for a short period rather than leave it open for longer, as you stare longingly into the fridge hoping to find something that someone's cooked earlier that you can nick and eat without having to do any preparation, or at least that's how I do it. In a lot of cases, a clothes dryer is a waste of money, especially if your home has an undercover area for you to hang your wet clothes. Where possible, though, you should always seek to hang your clothes in direct sunlight so that the ultraviolet rays can kill any of the remaining germs that the washing machine hasn't been able to. A half-full washing machine is also a waste of both power and water. That's why you should always reduce the water level for smaller loads, or only wash when you have a full load. Or you could always share the load with a housemate. Some older model dishwashers will also use a lot of power and water. That's why you should only run your dishwasher when it's completely full, and you should wash smaller loads of dishes in the sink. When it comes to hot water, you can also turn the thermostat down on your hot water system. Not only does this prevent you from accidentally scalding yourself, it can also decrease the cost of heating your water. Because standing under a hot shower for a prolonged period is one sure way of driving up your power or gas bill. That's what makes sense for shared households to make a pact on shower time. Shared households will also be better served by an instant hot water service than that only heats the water you need, rather than a larger capacity storage tank that requires substantial power use to keep reheating it. If your hot water tank is proving to be inadequate for your needs, you should speak to your landlord about installing an instant hot water system. Of all the hot water systems though, solar-based systems are usually the cheapest to run, though be aware that some have been known to run short of hot water during prolonged periods of overcast weather. When it comes to water and saving water, which I think we all have an obligation to do in the driest continent, a decent water-saving shower hose can still provide good pressure, but also will use much lower volumes of water. You can ask your landlord to supply one. If need be, you might even be able to fit it yourself. The cheapest way of reducing water usage while showering is to fit a small water-saving washer into your shower rose, either inside the rose itself or where the shower stem joins the wall. You should be able to get one of these washers or a little packet containing a few from your hardware store. All you need then is a shifter and some plumber's tape. You use the shifter to slowly turn the stem of the shower rose in an anti-clockwise direction to loosen it and take it off. Then place the small plastic washer into the end of the shower rose where it screws onto the stem or where the stem protrudes from the shower wall. The plumber's tape then ensures a drip-free seal when you tighten it back up again. Just make sure you don't over-tighten it. In most cases, water usage is a tenant's responsibility, but since it's all in our best interest to conserve water, little things like showering for a few minutes less, installing a dual flush toilet, repairing any leaking taps, or not wasting water by hosing off driveways and patios unnecessarily when a decent sweep could do the same job, will all make a considerable difference. Even things as simple as not leaving the water running while you shave, wash your face, or brush your teeth can also save heaps of water over a prolonged period of time. Now, telephone calls. Cheaper telecommunications will also make a huge difference to the bottom line of your budget. I absolutely get it that for a lot of people, a mobile phone is as much a fashion accessory and or status symbol as it is an essential everyday tool, despite the fact that most people only use a fraction of their phone's actual capabilities. So I'm not going to waste my time explaining to you why you should only be looking for a mobile phone that meets your most immediate everyday needs. If you have home-based broadband with unlimited data, which most people have, you should also make sure that your phone automatically switches to your home internet whenever you're in range. That saves on your mobile data. This is particularly important for those people on mobile plans with limited data. Most mobile phones should offer this option somewhere in their settings. You should also investigate the speed of your internet, but especially what it's likely to be during peak usage times. That's why it always pays to read the fine print of your contract before you sign it, but especially those involving mobile phones and home internet. That's because you definitely don't want to lock yourself into any contract that isn't capable of delivering the internet speed that you've signed for. And don't forget that if you do happen to live a little bit off the beaten track, there are now several mobile broadband networks that offer home broadband packages and modems that operate via the mobile internet system. So for those of you on a particularly tight budget, a prepaid month-to-month plan might actually prove to be your best option. I'll also provide a link to some pretty important information about just about everything related to mobile phones in the notes below, and mobile phones and internet connections, including information about your rights and how to go about making a complaint if you feel like you've been hard done by. But if you're studying or in business, then fast internet is definitely a must. When it comes to transport costs, in real terms, over the longer term, fuel prices only ever go up. So for any city-based young people who are either studying and or have been classified as low-income earners, by applying for a healthcare card, you can also save yourself a substantial amount on transport costs, especially compared to the costs of owning and operating a car. Each state also provides for a range of public transport ticket options, including daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly. It's usually cheaper to purchase a longer-term option rather than a new ticket every day. So the start of the year is probably the best time to evaluate your longer-term needs and act. If you own a car, then you'll already know that it's not just the cost of the fuel that makes car travel expensive. There's also tyres, services, wear and tear, insurances and registrations that can all add up to make the cost of running a car quite expensive, even a small car. But if you're the only car owner amongst your group who also just happens to provide regular transport for your peers, then I think it's only fair that you ask them to make a contribution to your fuel expenses. I think this is a fair and reasonable way, and logical way, to provide a fairer ride share system amongst your group. You can also use fuel dockets from supermarkets and buy fuel when it's at its cheapest, usually midweek. And by keeping your car serviced and running smoothly, you're also likely to decrease the running costs of your car. But if you drive when you could walk, if you drive aggressively and then brake heavily, you're definitely going to run up your fuel, tyre and services bill. So they're just some of the things that you can do to cut corners when you're living on a tight budget. There are lots more things that you can do if you're that way inclined, but if you are living on youth allowance or job seeker, then you're dealing with small amounts of money. You're living on $310 a week at most if you haven't got any other income, and that's about as tight a standard of living as you can get. So I hope you've found something in this vlog that may assist you in some way or other. You can always refer back to my website, life-skills.com.au, and I'll also provide some of the links to some of the data that I've been talking about in this vlog today. Sorry about my voice. I hope it's back for the next time round, but in the meantime, stay safe, stay well. We are thinking about you. We do care about how our young people are faring during this time, and it's not easy, but there are things you can do to keep your mind occupied. And if you watch my introductory video, I make mention of some of the things you can do to get your life in order so that you can relaunch when all this is under some sort of control. And hopefully within the next year or so, there'll come a time where it'll feel like a really unpleasant nightmare, I guess, and we can all move on and get about doing what we want to do and what we need to do. So good luck. I'll talk to you again soon with my next vlog about accommodation costs and tenancy arrangements. So all the best. Cheers.